4, 3, 2.
Hello everyone, I'm quite delighted to welcome two key persons who have made their great efforts to revolutionize the ways of international communication. In the last couple of years, they have enlightened us with the new idea of Globish, which has also become a hot topic in the 2011 issues of the Newsweek. In the cover story of that issues of Newsweek, the author states that the new way of international communication is emerging. All English native speakers and non-native speakers have to be watching out. Today, we are honored to have the initiator of this new trend in our studio, Mr. Jean-Paul Nerrière, a former IBM vice president, and his partner, Mr. David Hon, a senior English professor. So welcome, Mr. Nerrière and Mr. David Hon. Two gentlemen, the Globish has become a very hot topic since about maybe 2003, as you mentioned in many of your discussions there. Can you first just identify or tell us what is Globish?
Globish is the way more and more people around the world are speaking to each other.
Yes.
Most of those people, number-wise, are non-native speakers, and the languages evolve always in the hands of their speakers. In the case of English, which was the initial dominating language of the world, English is evolving in the hands of the non-native speakers, who are much more numerous than the native speakers. So the result is another kind of English which is appearing in the world.
Yes.
And my role and David's role has been to say this is what it should be to be really efficient, to be effective, so that everybody would speak the same way and everybody would understand everyone. We call it Globish.
Yeah, we know that English becomes such an important communication, way or channels for all the people around the world. But why Globish? I mean, just based upon your observations of this internet or even the global business activities or even the mass media, why is Globish or global English becoming so important?
Because speaking perfect English like David would do is impossible for me and for many of your countrymen watching this program, and is not needed. We can communicate, the two of us, very well with a more limited English than the English of the native speaker. So why would you spend a lifetime trying to imitate him, as we are able to communicate very efficiently with much less? Less, in the case of Globish, means more in the terms of results.
But just as Mr. Nerrière just mentioned that this kind of idea of Globish is an extension of globalization, right? Because of the globalization, the English or this global language, English as international language, becomes so popular, becomes so important to the international communication. But why Globish? A lot of people have used different kinds of words like international English, American English, basic English, or global English, the one I like to use. But why Globish? What's the common ground between the Globish or global English, or any kind of differences between these two terms, or any kind of difference between your Globish and other English as an international language? David, can you just explain to us what do you think about this one?
Clearly, globalization is on everyone's mind.
Yes.
So anything that sounds like globalization, people tend to lump into one category.
Yeah.
Actually, we're trying to define Globish very carefully as a closed system of natural language communication, so that people always have a predictable place to go. So that's why we're working to define it, to have rules, to have words, to have things that people will know where they are and how they can communicate with each other. And as you know, English and all kinds of English are kind of open-ended. They're very, very broad in their definition. So that's what we're really doing, is making Globish mean something very specific so that it can be predictable for people.
But why don't you use the word that we already use, like global English or international English? Quite the same functions here, right? People can use global English or international language to communicate with each other by using that kind of limited vocabulary or very close network in the language.
Yes, what we observed is that if we called it something English, nice English, simple English, it would still be perceived as many people as English.
Yes.
And the native English speakers would say, it is my English.
Yes.
They make it simple. I can't make it simple.
Yeah.
So it would not lead them to walking half the way to where I am. And we want them to understand that this is a language which is foreign to me and to you, but Globish is also a language which is foreign to them. They have to make an effort to meet us in a middle ground where everybody, including them, speaks the same way and everybody understands everybody.
Yeah, I think I understand your position here. Since in the past, if we use the English, it means that native speakers have the full control of the language, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So if we use different kinds of name or different kinds of ideas, maybe non-native speaker, not David Hon, not him, we can say something about this language.
Yes.
And you can, in international communication, non-native speaker can stand as equally as the native speakers to some extent. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Do you agree?
No.
No?
Actually, the native speaker needs to learn quite a bit and how to speak with people that are just learning English who are non-native speakers. We need to learn something of what you know so that we can, communicate with you. If we just try to communicate with you like we would our friends or our associates, and we don't think where you're coming from, there's not going to be a good communication. So one of our rules is that I am responsible for my communication with you.
Yeah, it's good that the global English is a cure, or it's a good way for non-native speakers to pick up the language, right? But don't you think that it's a threat to native speakers that you're going to lose the control of your mother tongue, and Globish is the way that we are going to beat native speakers?
No, I would say we would like to welcome everybody.
Yes.
Luckily, it probably will be easier for us to speak Globish than it will be for other people. But we do have things to learn.
Okay, Paul, you have...
Actually, either the native speakers accept this theory, or they will lose the control. Let me explain. Yeah. Either they say there is English on one side, which is my language with Shakespeare, Milton, Oscar Wilde, Mark Twain, and this is a cultural language, and I want to keep it as it is. Or I'd let everybody in India, in Pakistan, in France, in Taiwan make the language evolve, and the language will die. So they have to say, no, let those people and me with them speak Globish, and let the Queen and the aristocracy and the cultivated people in my country speak English. They have to see that there are two different kinds of English, one for international communication and one for culture.
Yeah, that's a very good idea. Use the Globish to communicate with each other, right? And people from different kinds of parts of the world can communicate with each other in that kind of simplified version of the new language, right? It's a good idea. But the problem is that if you want to use Globish, and the person from India, from Japan, even from the United States, don't want to use Globish. They still want to follow their so-called standardized American English. And what would you do?
I can speak American English.
Yes. but how about you?
Frankly, I think that there will be a period during which there will be people like this who say, no, I don't want it. This is for underdeveloped people like this Frenchman.
Yes.
I won't do it. In the long term or in the 10 years, they will lose markets.
Yes.
Because when they will go to Kiev, Mexico, or Madrid, they will find out that people speaking a limited English with locals speaking also limited English will win the contracts and they will lose them.
Yeah.
So after a while, they will have to adjust.
Yeah, again, demands matters, right? If non-native speakers want to do the business with the non-native speakers, they have to speak the language that we can understand.
Yes.
Like international language, global English, in your case, is Globish.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good idea. I think that it's a good medicine for all this kind of international communication.
I'm sure you have the same saying that we do, that money talks.
Yes, yeah, that's right. So let's come back to this learning of the Globish. Since Globish is such a wonderful idea, but how are we going to learn it? Does that mean that you have limited parts of a vocabulary? People have only have to study only 1,500 words to communicate in many occasions. So it means that our students can throw away the grammar book and then start learning standardized pronunciation. Is that right?
No. We expect Globish to be correct English. It is not a pidgin English. It is not a halfway English. It is correct English with, it is true, a limited set of words. We expect the grammar in this way of speaking English to be very correct, which is easy because we recommend to have short sentences, and grammar is less complex when the sentence is short. And we expect the pronunciation to be understandable.
Yes.
But it does not need to be the Queen's pronunciation or Mickey Mouse's pronunciation. It has to be understandable, and I hope mine is, because you cannot be better understood than understood. If you are understood, there is no point in trying to imitate the Queen. You are understood, and it is enough. So it is correct English, limited vocabulary, simple grammar, and an understandable pronunciation.
So yes, you just mentioned the limited vocabulary, but it's 1,500 words. I mean, this part of vocabulary is enough, or it's not enough?
Well, we've written a book, and we hope that people can understand what's in the book, and if they can, then I think it's enough.
How about the grammatical error? I mean, Globish allows some kind of, sometimes we non-native speakers make mistakes, right? Grammatically, or sometimes we do not pronounce some of the word quite articulately. So what happened to some mistakes non-native speakers make? Does Globish allow any kind of mistakes, facing some of non-native speakers? How about?
Yes, nobody is perfect. But like in any language, I mean, if I were trying to speak English today, I would make mistakes. And David Hon, who is perfect in English, sometimes makes mistakes. So mistakes will not have you sentenced to death. You accept mistakes wherever they are.
Okay, so mistakes are okay, right? And once we can communicate with each other, once we can use as many as the words that we can to talk, to have a communication between native speaker, non-native speakers, or native speaker and native speakers.
I don't think you can say that all mistakes are okay.
Okay.
I think that grammar is the logic of the language. It's what ties the ideas together with meaning. So you can't just throw it out.
Sure, we still have to stick to some kind of grammar, right? But simplify the correct English. But simplify, English. Not too many words, not too complicated grammar rules.
Short sentences.
Right? The shortened sentence. What is the minimum, size of the sentence?
A sentence sentence above 26 words
26
is a disguise. Should not exist. Below 13, it's even better.
So yes, I think that after our talk about this, the natures or features of Globish, I think that most of the audience or even the learners, the teachers, will think that this is just wonderful news for the people who have learned English for so many years and who still cannot open their mouths to communicate with the foreigners or international visitors. So talk about the impacts on English teachers. English teachers tend to teach teach quite well, and they have a lot of job, their responsibilities to train their students well. But once the English is becoming so easy, and then we are going to lose the job as a professor, right? So what kind of impacts? You are the native speaker. You used to be the English teachers. So you're going to lose the job.
Right? No,
Yes.
actually, I think it's almost the converse.
Yes.
I believe that this is going to mean more jobs for non-native English-speaking teachers.
Yes.
Because they won't have that gold standard of the native speaker that they're always trying to follow. And that gold standard tells people you will never be good enough, right? But the non-native English-speaking teacher, who is a very good teacher, by the way, there are many great teachers out there, they will actually have more respect when they're dealing with Globish and not trying to become like the native speaker.
So native speakers have to learn the language as well, right?
Absolutely.
And non-native speakers have to follow some kind of rules in order to speak correct English to reach that kind of usually called a common ground or middle ground in which that native speaker and non-native speaker can communicate with each other without making, creating some kind of misunderstandings in this kind of international communications. Great. Thank you for this kind of, inspiring ideas. But still, I have a question about, since you have been in Taiwan for a couple of days, right? So how about your observations on Taiwan? Do you think that does Taiwan need, here in Taiwan classroom, a lot of teachers teach American English. And we try to train our students, educate our students to master beautiful, perfect English. So what do you think? What kind of impacts that you're going to bring to the educations in Taiwan?
Well, there's some Englishmen who don't think American English is beautiful.
Okay, yes.
But there are not very many left.
Yes.
No, I think we've found a very sophisticated, educated city here, and neither of us have ever come to Taiwan before, but we're very, very impressed.
Yes. So do you think that global English or Globish is just a process? It's part of the something, the level that you can reach, and if you want to go beyond Globish, you still can learn so-called the British, American, or even Queen's or Shakespeare's English.
If you want to enjoy the English and American cultures, which are absolutely outstanding, like your culture, Chinese culture is wonderful, French is also wonderful. So if you want to enjoy that, there is no debate that Globish will not be enough.
Yes.
If you want to close a deal in Seoul or in Lisbon or in Odessa, you should stick to Globish. And the opportunity of Globish is for a mass market. And our analysis or our impression is that in a country like Taiwan, where 78% of the gross domestic product comes from export,
that's right.
much more than in France, where it is 23.
26.
In a country like this, the number of people that will have to deal with non-Taiwanese people is gigantic. And there are probably 8 million Taiwanese people that would benefit from speaking Globish in their relationship with customers, suppliers, partners, dealers overseas. This is an enormous market for the population of teachers that you were mentioning earlier. Not the same kind of teaching, nor the same kind of command of English, but an enormous market for them. So the opportunity for the island is very great.
Yeah, that's why I think that you are right, because maybe close to 80% of Taiwan's GDP depends on the exports, import, right? So this kind of the use of English as an international language or Globish is quite important to the people in Taiwan. Now, in the past, I think only the elites, the highly educated people can speak English. But right now, we demand all the people, most of the people who want to do the business with international markets have to speak English. But that doesn't mean that all the people have to speak beautiful or perfect English. Okay, I mean, English is a tool. It's not the language itself, right? Language can cover so many dimensions, the culture, philosophical, ideological, a lot of things there, right? But Globish is a kind of tool, or English can be used or considered tool, practical tool for people with which people can communicate with each other, can do a business, can talk, can avoid any kind of misunderstanding, right? So that is the purpose, the function of Globish, or using English as an international language. Of course, we don't like English, right? We hope that we can have a new talking language for the people to learn. Okay, and David, so you feel comfortable with that as a native speakers, that we are going to give up American English?
I think it's much simpler than that.
Yes.
I think that there are degrees of English that you need, but for most business in the world, especially between non-native speakers, there is a certain amount that is enough.
Yes.
And that is part of our definition. Globish is enough.
Yeah. So if you learn Globish, what kind of levels of fluency, how good our English will be if I just learn the Globish?
Well, we've tried to make some measurement, and what we've really pointed
shopping,
to
or
is an intermediate level of English. Yeah.
Yes, doing the business. Is it okay to do the business?
That's what I've been doing for almost 35 years as an executive in IBM, where I was an IBM USA vice president, and in other companies as well. I was at this level, and I got pretty high positions in the command chain in those companies. So yes, it is for business, and it is enough for business. You don't need more.
So 1,500 words will be enough for doing the business, for the talk on the tables about negotiating this kind of deal, where you want to take orders or not. Is that good enough?
Because it is 1,500 words plus the children of those words.
Yes.
In English, words have children. So use becomes useless, uselessness, usefully, usefulness, and so on. So our 1,500 root words enlarged to about 5,000 altogether. And this is a lot.
Okay, final words. David, what kinds of suggestions or opinions you want to propose to our Taiwanese audience and all these bunches of learners of English in Taiwan who have studied English for so many years, who still cannot open their mouth? The final words, final suggestions to our audience?
I hope that they will talk to me.
Yes.
Because I see a very large global conversation beginning in that level of Globish.
Yes.
And I want to be part of that conversation.
Okay, good. Thank you. How about you?
I would say that for what I have seen, many Taiwanese are like my countrymen, the French people. They are afraid, they are shy, they are concerned about losing face by not being respected for the fluency of their English, and they are wrong.
Yeah.
Either you are a good professional, you are a good doctor, you are a good journalist, you are a good researcher, a good scholar, and you are, if at the same time you are very good in English, this is even better. But if you are not, you are still an excellent professional. And you've got to keep that in mind, because then you will lose your inhibition, your complexes, your shyness, and you will be happy to discuss and win and yell, and yes, you are what you are, and it is worth consideration.
Yes, I think Mr. Nerrière is a very good example, outstanding example, can say that, who speak so-called Globish and to win the position as a vice president in all-American, company, that's IBM, right? So he argues that by using only the limited vocabulary, and you don't have to worry that you're going to lose your face, you just overcome your shyness, you just stand out and say what you want to say in any kind of international communication, in any kind of international like conference or meetings or whatever, they're going to win the respect from native speakers. So Globish is a new way for us to establish our confidence in international communication. Most of people would like to argue that their English is poor, but look at Mr. Nerrière and talk to David Hon, that they don't blame your poor English. They think that the problem with your poor English is not your problem. It's a problem with the native speakers, because they don't speak the English which we can understand. That's their problem. So in these kind of areas, in terms of Globish, we want to set up a very effective communication channels for two groups of people: the people who can speak English, the people who have a limited command of English. Only by doing this one, the global English or Globish can become very effective international communication tools. And thank you both of you to share this kind of wonderful ideas. I think that our Taiwanese audience, teachers, students can benefit a lot from your inspiring concepts. And I hope that this kind of idea of Globish, the idea of global English, or even any kinds of terms will become so popular here in Taiwan that our teachers and our learners, or even our policymakers, can find that Globish might be the very good way for us to improve our way of international communication. Thank you for your presence here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your being here.